I welcome you all. Good evening. This is a day-long wonderful conversation on various aspects of energy. This is my favorite subject. I can tell you I'm writing on this for last more than 2 decades now. And I can tell you after every 3 years, I have to write a story saying DISCOMS are the weakest links. And post 2014, when reforms started setting in on generation and transmission side, the glaring things in DISCOM started to show that, how operationally as well as financially the DISCOMs have become, a very, very complex story to be told. We have seen Uday, we have seen reforms which were done by Mr. R.K. Singh. But suddenly, we again see that the debt is a big issue. The operations are still, a weak point in the DISCOMs. So probably this is the session for introspections and discussions and to see how we can, clean up the things. Maybe start with Gujarat. Gujarat has one of the most profitable DISCOMs. Maybe some stories to be told from Gujarat that how DISCOMs can be cleaned up and maintain the trajectory, because it's very easy to come out of mess and then go back into the mess. How Gujarat year after year manages to keep in greens. So help us in understanding that what Gujarat does and others can't do.
Thanks, Anilesh. Thanks. First of all, thank you for having me here. It has been a good day of interaction and listening to some of the eminent speakers. Talking about Gujarat, I would quickly talk about 2-3 points that sets apart Gujarat from the other states. First of all, it is about the unique structure of the DISCOMs in the Gujarat. When you say that their DISCOMs have been the pain point, our structure is very different from most of the other states. We have a holding company called GUVNL, which handles our power procurement, dealing with the regulator on major issues and then policy issues. So DISCOMs are purely focusing on supplying power, maintaining it, and then billing and collection. So the biggest pain point in all the distribution sector is the collection of revenue. So in our case, the DISCOMs have been focusing clearly on only these 3 aspects: giving new connections in time, maintaining power quality, and third, billing and collection in time. And for this, for the last 20 years, there have been a clear political support. People have been made to understand that if you are using power, you will have to pay the bills. If the losses are lesser, if the theft is lesser, ultimately the cost of power to all the consumers will be lesser. And there have been completely no interference in terms of billing and for collection. So that is why it has not been that suddenly in 2 years the power sector has been turned around in Gujarat. But if you see the trajectory, year after year after year, every year the T&D losses have been reducing from the previous year. The collection efficiency has increased. And for the last 5-6 years, the collection efficiency had been 100%. Billing efficiency has been 100%. We are able to bill all the consumers in terms of billing percentage of the units. It is crossed 90% now. Collection efficiency has been 100%. There has been no interference from any political level that if we are supplying power, we can only supply power in an affordable manner. We can supply power to all for 24/7 if we charge for that power. So that has been one big difference. Second, as I talked about the structure of the DISCOMs. And third, as the DISCOMs are purely focusing on operations, we have been innovative. There have been good professional competency within the DISCOMs. And year after year, we have improved from one level to another. And then another major factor was the launching of Jyotigram scheme almost 15-16 years back, where we segregated the feeder long back. Right now, under RDSS, many states are contemplating segregation of feeders, but if we have segregated the feeders long back, we have a good industrial base. So if I go by sector...
Yogesh, I'll come to the, the rural distribution. From Gujarat, I am traveling to UP. I remember covering 2014 elections. So Prime Minister Modi made that famous, stanza he used that to improve power situation, you require 56 inch ka seena. So 56 inch ka seena was explained by him that how political will has changed Gujarat. Since 2017 onward, BJP is in power in Uttar Pradesh. Sir, a lot of improvement has happened. I was seeing the data, the supply of power has improved. But still, UP is amongst the laggards. Still, UP hasn't reached into the top performing states. So where do you see, do you think that now UP is coming out of ages and the political interference is coming down? Do you think, we can have 100% collection from UP? What is your experience dealing with the DISCOMs there, sir? Ashish ji?
Yeah, thank you, Nilesh. So first of all, let me give you some figures. This year, we supplied 24-hour electricity during this peak summer of April, May, June, without any glitches. Hardly 1% of my substations were overloaded. From 2017 to 2024, we have come a long way in maintaining the reliability of supply. So the challenges on the front of procuring sufficient power and having a good infrastructure to deliver that power to our consumers, we have almost won that battle. And we are in the advanced implementation of our plan to have proper procurement for the next 10 years. The other challenge which remains is, of course, the metering, billing and collection. You have to understand, I have almost 3.5 crore consumers, out of which more than 65% are rural consumers, and 50% of my consumers are lifeline consumers, who are supposedly below poverty line consumers, who have got electricity connection in only last few years. And we have to inculcate this habit of getting them proper bills and getting those bills collected. It has taken other states almost decades to build that culture. In Gujarat, that thing started in 2002 when the current Prime Minister took over the charge. And in other states also, in the southern states, these things started in early 2000. So we are well on our way to achieve those targets. A smart metering project is underway in Uttar Pradesh, and more than 3 crore smart meters will be installed. And with that, we hope that this culture of paying up for electricity bills will be there. I would like to bring to your attention some very non-conventional thing which threaten the sustainability of DISCOM.
Ashish ji, sorry I'm cutting you because, there is
I'll just take one minute.
No, I want to stay with you only.
Yeah.
I was counting when he was making Gujarat things. He mentioned 8 times that how there is no political interference in Gujarat, which is helping the DISCOMs come to town.
So I am not mentioning it because there is no interference. So that is not an issue. We have a free hand and we have to do our work, and we are progressing towards that goal. So if somebody says that there is a political interference in our work, no. There is no political interference. We have been given a clear mandate that we have to make DISCOM sustainable. The other thing that is threatening the sustainability of DISCOMs all over the country is the energy transition. I am not saying the energy transition is bad, but we have to prepare the DISCOMs, all our DISCOMs, to handle this energy transition. One from the grid stability point of view, and the other is from the sustainability point of view. When we say open access to commercial and industrial consumers, if all of them are moving to green open access, then DISCOMs have to be recognized that they are a public good, they are providing some service to the society, and they need to be strengthened to handle this open access. Otherwise, what will happen? The cream skimming will be done by green open access generators. All my paying customers will go to open access. At the same time, they will be dependent on me to provide them electricity at the peak time. So this dichotomy of policy has to be recognized, and DISCOM's sustainability has to be done.
Varun, Telangana is amongst very few states which provide free electricity to their farmers. There are a lot of papers, there are a lot of CRC and state regulators, recommendations that one should not, give free electricity. I want to understand that how are you dealing with this issue? Because we have already seen the Punjab's DISCOM struggling with it, Andhra Pradesh DISCOM struggling with this, and they have not been able, because we all know that states' finances are also in a problem, so they can't pay the subsidies upfront. So that creates problem for your cash flows. I want to understand from you that how Telangana is dealing with this.
Thank you, Amlesh, and thank you for having us here, having me here. Regarding providing free electricity to agriculture sector in Telangana, so one of the key positive points with what is the intention with which the free power supply to agriculture is not only given for restricted hours, but it is the state proudly claims that we're giving for entire 24 hours. That at any point of time the farmer has supply for their farm, and what it led to after formation of Telangana. So Telangana hitherto, during our childhood, the way we used to see the state is very drought-prone. People used to migrate to other states to brickle industries, or because they're predominantly rain-fed. So after the policy of giving free electricity for 24 hours, the crop production in the state has increased by almost 6-fold. Previously, Andhra used to be the rice bowl of the country along with Punjab. Now it is Telangana has become the predominant paddy, and now it is shifting from paddy to oil palm. So there is a lot of prosperity which was brought in because of the scheme. The other pitfalls which are in terms of how you manage the subsidy, and government to its credit has been upfront and regular when it comes to tariff subsidy for agriculture, whereas slightly we are a little bit accumulation of arrears on the other bills, the government institutions or lift irrigation projects which the government is running with Kaleshwaram. But otherwise, in terms of it is upfront when it comes to the agriculture tariff subsidy. But how the state is navigating now, the policy thinking which the government is planning is, we are planning to utilize the Kusum scheme of the government of India and encouraging farmers to come forth for solar pumps so that they can utilize their own consumption for their own irrigation needs. At the same time, they can earn certain revenue with the energy which is injected into the grid. So that scheme which is being planned in the planning stage, and that is how we are seeing in the forthcoming years, maybe in the 5 years, 6 years down the line, how slowly making farmers much more, shifting the entire agriculture load to solar hours and making farmers more responsible in terms of consume during those solar hours, at the same time earn money in terms during their excess injection to the grid. And that also reduces the subsidy burden on the government. And for DISCOMs, the benefit is they get the cheaper power than procuring somewhere down the street from other states, as it is injected directly at the source of consumption.
Rajib, if I can bring you here, we had one of the best DISCOMs, one of the most improving DISCOMs, and Telangana's case as free power, that how it may impact or it may not impact. You have been for ages monitoring DISCOMs from Delhi, and you have seen all the reforms which happened in last 2 decades. Help us in understanding that, when we call DISCOMs a weak link in the story, do you think that reforms have actually, the last 3-4 years reform when R.K. Singh used stick and carrot method, do you think that is now taking shape? DISCOMs are improving, or what sort of improvements do you see? Or do you think there can't be a Delhi ka model, there has to be state-specific models, and those models need to be monitored very carefully? What is your thought process?
Thank you, Anlesh. And thank you once again for inviting me for this session. You rightly said this is the weakest link in the reform process. And in the power sector, if you have asked me, I have spent 38 years now. And I have seen just this journey when there was hardly any power in the country to 450 gigawatt of a capacity with a national grid, which is one of the best in the world. So we should be proud of that. Now the weakest link, what we are talking, is the DISCOMs. Again, it's a concurrent subject. Most of the other two what we are discussing is on the national agenda. That is the capacity at the national generation level, and the transmission is being dealt at the CTU level, which is again at the central level. The DISCOM predominantly is with the state, and the power procurement is also being done at the DISCOMs levels. So a very important aspect of reforms in the distribution companies are happening in these states. And you have rightly pointed out, several schemes have come, right from Uday to the recent schemes which has been done. Some of the states have performed very well. Some of the states have not done so well. And that is being reflected in the statistics if you see every year, that the AT&C losses for some of the states may be as high as 60%, whereas in some states it is 8% or 9%. So certainly it's not the uniform policy which has worked throughout the country. But the most important thing is, you rightly pointed out that what are the 4 pillars which is working for the DISCOMS. And let us just try to find out these 4 pillars which are part of the reforms and is working for some states and not working for some other states. The first I would like to see a statistics called AT&C losses, and it comprises both the technical losses as well as the commercial losses. And Mr. Chaudhary has rightly pointed out, it comprises of 2 components. One is billing efficiency and the collection efficiency. In some states it's 100%, some states it may be as low as 70%. So virtually what you are billing and you are not getting is as high as 30%. So those are the things which are administrative issues, and that has to be looked at from the administrative point of view. Second aspect is the infrastructure for distribution company. Let me be very candid in saying that the kind of infrastructure we could create in the capacities for generation and transmission is of world class. Whereas in the infrastructure what we have created in the distribution companies are still lacking and is certainly not of a very high standard. We need to improve there drastically. You make plans, you give them budget, you give them a specification which is of world class, and then try to create infrastructure of an interest.
What do they lack? Sorry, I missed it. What do they lack? DISCOMS?
Yeah, DISCOMS. I'm saying if you have urban infrastructure for distribution, say transformers, distribution, your network and underground cable, everything requires some kind of a specification which is of an international standard. Very candidly I can say that if you want to put a bulb on, you can just take a wire and connect it. The second thing is dress it properly, get it done for 20 years. So we have to create a distribution infrastructure for 35 years, not for 2 years or 3 years down the line. So getting connected to the last consumer, the purpose is not to create something just for some years. You need to create infrastructure which has to last for many years. So that is the physical infrastructure part I am talking about. The third is the technological infrastructure. You reduce the manpower for human intervention in customer facing. And that creates the difference. Let me tell you, smart meter is not a smart meter in itself. It does 3 purposes. One is it will measure what you are consuming. The distribution company can monitor what the consumer is consuming. This distribution company has all the controls for disconnecting or connecting when it wants. So virtually you are removing all the interfaces from the system. And the fourth and the last, which is the most important thing, is you need to draw investment in this sector. You have investors in creating capacities in generation. You have investors who are creating infrastructure in transmission. But for distribution, you are dependent upon the central government for aids. And anything for a very long time which is dependent on central government for some kind of aids or support will not work. It has to be self-sufficient. And before this discussion, we were discussing that it's not that the customers are not willing to pay. If you pay, give them good services, if you give them reliable power, they are willing to pay. And that's how it should work.